Hi everyone, how you going? I'll just give it a couple of minutes till the notifications go out and we'll have a bit of a chat. Yeah, we're going to have a bit of a chat about the floods and how it's going to impact people and centrelink disaster payments and how it's going to impact people on the cashless debit card. So for people on the cashless debit card applying for disaster relief payments from the floods, if they get them, they go 100% on the cashless debit card. This is going to cause a lot of problems because a lot of people are not going to be able to quickly be able to access the cash to be able to buy things secondhand, which in a critical situation like this, now we've been through quite a bit up here, Brisbane, you know, down the coast, northern New South Wales, and now it's headed for Sydney. We have no idea how many cashless debit cards are out there, you know, people on the cashless debit card who are out there in those regions. 40% of people on the cashless debit card live outside the trial regions. When the last bill went through in December 2020, Senator Rex Patrick introduced an amendment to the bill to enable forced cashless debit card holders to have access to cash in times of a natural disaster, cyclone, flood, fire, etc. Considering what we saw with the bushfires, where phones were out, I will never forget Services Australia's attitude to me on Twitter was, how do people phone you? There's no internet, there's no lines up. Oh, they'll just get them to call us. So I sent them back a photo of a melted phone box and said, how? Right, we saw a situation there where fuel stations were operating on generators and operating on cash only sales, and certain supermarkets, and everybody in the area got 3 days warning to withdraw money from the bank to make sure they had enough cash, because the power was going to be turned off anyway to protect infrastructure. Of course, people on the cashless debit card don't get the option. We saw queues of people that were trying to get out, that could get out because they were able to access cash and pay for cash at the fuel station. Right? And the thing that worried me was, what if there was a card holder in that lot that couldn't access cash? And because internet and FPOS was down, right, and they were stuck in that huge queue of traffic trying to get out, which was single file, what would happen if they ran out of fuel because they couldn't get a fuel top up at that service station? I think this was in Bateman's Bay or Coffs Harbour region. That kept rolling around in my head. How would that person deal with that? Angry people screaming at them because their car's stuffed and they can't move because they couldn't get fuel to get out. All of a sudden, everybody else can't get out. How would people help? Would people run back and get some petrol for them? Or would people beat up on them for being on a cashless debit card? That's been a worry of mine all the way through. Now, we've seen some pretty devastating, catastrophic floods just go through here. We're not in the clear yet. Where I live, the Lamington Bridge has still got water over it. They're hoping it'll be open on Friday, right? But we've got more weather, storms forecast starting tomorrow, right? Go down further. Lismore, whole towns have gone underwater. I know there's cashless debit card holders out there. I just don't know how they're going to cope, because the amendment that Senator Rex Patrick tried to put in was to be able to protect these people in times of an emergency, because we'd already seen people abandoned over and over and over again in natural disasters on both basics card and cashless debit card. You know, in 2017, there was a big power outage. Ceduna went down, 8 days, abandoned, no power, no access to money. But the rest of the town, they got an emergency generator into the local community pub and they could withdraw cash, and all the businesses were trading in cash. but anybody on a cashless debit card couldn't partake. Meanwhile, they had fridges broken down with spoiled food and no supports. Abandoned. Right? Every time power goes down, internet goes down, cardholders have the same problem. They can't just go to an ATM, which a lot of people can, and draw out some cash. When emergency services say, get prepared, get your water, get your batteries, go to the bank, get some cash out, blah, 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 blah. They can't do any of that. And this is a real concern. We've just gone through our second flood in 6 weeks here. But Senator Rex Patrick tried to make that easier for people. But no. The LNP and Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts, no way. No way. They voted his amendment down. Right? When we look at what's been going on with the Basics card over the last 15 years, and how many times Aboriginal communities have been cut off due to flooding, or how many times Telstra's been down, and it's been down for weeks, and the local shops are working on book up because people can't use their cards. And then the local shop comes out and says, can't give them any more because we don't have it. Right? The Tiwi Islands, when they went under, I saw a video of Aboriginal people. They pay their electricity by the meter box. They need cash to do that. They couldn't get it, right? Their Basics card was useless. They were left. And I remember seeing this video, and these people were standing in their front yard up to their waist in water, and they were screaming for help. And there's so many times when we don't hear about Aboriginal communities that are cut off. And we don't hear about it until they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks without internet connectivity, and people are starving. All right? The cashless debit card is the same. When a disaster hits, those people are abandoned. Now, there is over 15,000 people on the cashless debit card, and there's 25,000 people on the Basics card in this country. And when a disaster hits, they're all paralysed. I want people to realise, and if you know somebody on a cashless debit card who's gone through all of this and they've lost everything, right, what disaster relief payments they get will go on that card 100%. And in order to buy second-hand goods, they're going to have to beg, which is disgusting. They're going to have to beg. They're going to have to fill out the applications. They're going to have to send in a photo of the item. They're going to have to send in the details of the seller. Right? And then they're going to have to wait for 2 days to get an approval. And then it takes 2 days to get the money into their bank. Most of the time, most of the sellers have walked away. They don't want to wait. They want the cash in their hand today. You know, is this still available? Yes. Can you come and collect it now? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Not with the cashless debit card holders. Oh, can you hang on to it for 4 days while I get the paperwork? Meanwhile, can I have all your ins and outs and your details? So, because I've got to provide all the proof to indue first before I can get access to that cash. So, if you're on a cashless debit card and you're in this situation, please let us know. Right? If you don't want to say it on the page, send a message to us. Right? We'll scream for you. We'll scream from the bloody rooftops. Right? Because this isn't good enough. This is not good enough. Now, we have a disaster situation. Absolutely. And it's moving down the coast. It's hitting Sydney as we speak. One of my admins I haven't heard from, last I heard from last night, was packing everything ready to get out. Working on their evacuation plan. Okay? I haven't heard from her since. So I don't know what's going on. She's in Penrith. Ground Zero's hitting tonight. They've already had their evacuation orders. You know? People I know have lost everything. In Gympie and all the way down the coast. There's nothing I can do to help them. But it's even worse when people on a cashless debit card. We had a cashless debit card holder stuck for 4 days at a service station in Gympie with no way out. You know what I mean? Eventually she had to be medevaced out, and her husband got stuck there, you know, and she ended up at the evac centre. But 4 days before that happened, just last week, just over this flood, you know, I don't know what to say. But if you are on a cashless debit card, and you're having problems and you've lost everything, I can't do anything to help you. I don't have money or goods or services or volunteers. All I can say is you get onto your local community pages, right? Be careful which ones you're on, of course, because a lot of them are run by right-wing people. But get onto your community pages, get involved, and you'll find there are lots of people in your community that can help you. And don't be proud. Don't be shy. Okay? And let us know if you've had any problems. You know, and how long were you stuck without food? We know that people are stuck without food, but like there was a comment today, like from a lady. It was to the lady that made the comment. It was an innocuous comment. You know what I mean? Oh, we stocked up last Thursday because we knew it was coming. Blah blah blah. We made sure we had everything we needed, and stuff like that. You know, we got extra bread, we got extra milk, we did this, we did that, blah blah blah. And they live in an area where they're used to being cut off, so they got prepared. And it was all well and good till somebody put in the comments, and what about those who don't have the financial means to get prepared? The people that are on social security payments, no matter what they are, whether they be job seeker, you know, youth allowance, disability support pension, age pensions, where you've got this little window to get prepared, but you don't get paid till next week. And you've got no money to go out and get prepared. And then the disaster hits 2 days later and you're up the creek with no paddle. Right? Whereas people around you are better off then start chastising, well, you should have gotten prepared. You know? And it's like, well, they would have if they'd had income to do it with, but everybody has to wait until their pay cycle comes in to be able to do that. And because the payments are so inadequate and so far below the poverty line, people don't have the money to spare. The cost of living has gone up. The amount of food that people can afford to buy has drastically gone down. And then expecting people to be able to stock up, yeah, they can't do it either. So they're caught either which way. But I'd be interested if anybody out there is on a cashless debit card and you know anybody and you can help them, please do. And yeah, if they want to share their stories, as I said, we've got no idea how many are living down the East Coast outside of the Hinkler region or outside of Ceduna or that could be impacted by. Even people from Kalgoorlie live on this side of the world. Do you know what I mean? Excuse me, the humidity's getting to me. It's still rather warm here and it makes me cough. But yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, and Cat Mellow, empathy goes a long way. A little empathy goes a long way. For sure, you know. It's disgusting what this card does and what it's done over, what the basics card has done to the 25,000 people that are on it over the last 15 years and what the cashless debit card has done to people over the last 6.5 years. It's got to be stopped, right? I mean, let's be real honest here. Senator Rex Patrick puts through a good amendment that in the case of a natural disaster, because Australia is prone to floods, cyclones, bushfires, right? Tasmania might get the odd blizzard, do you know what I mean? Anything to allow people on the cashless debit card to have access to cash in emergency situations so that they can prepare. Who votes no on that? Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, right? Centre Alliance and LNP. Who votes no to stop people having the ability to prepare for a natural disaster and get out? And that's my worry, is a natural disaster is going to come along and someone is not going to have the ability to get out because they're going to be stuck somewhere with no fuel and they won't be able to use their card because, you know, and they won't be able to get cash and they're going to get stuck. And somebody will come up with an excuse, oh, but they can head to you know, they can go to one of the emergency evacuation centres. Well, I saw this week there was 2 evacuation centres open in Gympie. They were full. They were turning people away. And there was people who couldn't get there because of the floods. One of them was a cashless debit card holder. She couldn't get from where they were to the evac centre. And it took 4 days before emergency crews could get to them. Right? I remember seeing her put a post up and they'd already been stuck nearly a day asking for anybody who could drop with help with food, some medicines, some bandages and gauze pads, because she's just had surgery in Brisbane and needed help. All right, and there was a couple of other families stuck with them. The Gympie community managed to scrunch up some help for them, but it's not the point. Couldn't get to an evac centre. All right, who votes to stop Aussies from getting help? Remember that, okay? The cruelty that has been imposed on people on the cashless debit card, you know, the constant stripping of their dignity, the removal of their rights, their human rights, the breaches of Article 9 UNCHR, right? The whole lot. The media world bashing to get people bashing people in public who see the card being used. The mental health strain on families and the ripple effect through families. The financial collapse of people that were financially stable beforehand. And I don't mean financially well off. I mean, they budgeted every little tiny cent and they had it balanced so they wouldn't go under. And along comes indue and bang, everything goes out from underneath them. Their credit rating, they're behind, they're getting debt, right? Or they're encouraged to use third-party payment systems to buy normal things because they can't access the cash, therefore putting them into bad debt or bad credit as it's known. Afterpay, zip pay, hum, all right, all those sort of things. They're easy to use, but they're listed as a bad credit on your credit rating. That's cruel. Pushing people into homelessness when they haven't had their rents paid properly, or they wouldn't give them access to cash to pay rents because of their rental circumstances. Enough's enough. All right? Enough's enough. It's tough enough if you're not on the card. Right? It's tough enough. Doesn't matter what payment you're on now. It's too hard. It's too hard if you've got casual work and unstable. You don't know what your wages are going to be every week. Right? This country needs a change. And we need to change now, as soon as possible. So all I'm going to say is we've got to change this. The weather's not going to change to suit the LNP or One Nation. We've got to change to make sure that we can vote in a government that will look after people better. Right? One of the things that has majorly changed with the disaster payment, one of the things was it was very easy to get before Tony Abbott's government came in. It was a matter of getting on the phone, giving them your CRN number and telling them your details, and bingo, it was in the bank in an hour. Right? That's how fast it worked before. And it applied if you were stuck, flooded or fire or whatever, you were stranded away from home for more than 24 hours. You were granted that payment to help you assist with whatever you had to pay for to stay away. I know, because I got stuck in Narrabri in 2011 on the way back from South Australia to Queensland, and we were stuck there for 9 days. And I didn't want a disaster relief payment because, luckily for me, in Narrabri, their welfare services, I paid what was my fuel money to get home to Queensland for the 2 nights accommodation. And then we went to the Docks Centre because that's where we were sent. And they paid for 7 nights accommodation for us in a pet-friendly hotel too. Ironically owned by an ex-member of we were able to stay there. They gave us $100 food ticket, you know what I mean? And it was fantastic. Everybody pulled together. But I sat in an office with a family that had been airlifted out, and they'd had to leave their dog behind, and they were up to their shoulders in water. And they'd lost everything on their farm. And they were sitting in that office with wet clothes. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that community. I'll never forget the Labor policy that pulled us out and helped those families that Abbott destroyed. Right? We left Narrabri in the hope to get out. Unfortunately, I didn't realise that Moree was still cut off, so I had to turn back. So I went into the disaster relief centre because I just needed fuel money, that's all. It ended up, they put us up at the caravan park. I got a disaster relief payment. That got us home. That sorted us out. Do you know what I mean? But I was stuck another day or 2 days. And then it took me another day or so to get home. You know, the way those communities pulled together was fantastic. But that disaster, they didn't muck around with the disaster relief. Now you've got people got to go online, they've got to jump through this hoop, they've got to jump through that hoop, they've got to do this, they've got to do that. All right, one guy came onto our local page, he's obviously self-employed. He applied for it 6 weeks ago when he lost income, wasn't eligible. Why? One of the criteria is if you've lost income, you should be eligible. It appears that if you're self-employed, it's possibly not the case. It's because he was worried about what he was going to do now because he was losing money this week. And how was he going to pay his bills? Because he wasn't on centrelink. This government has screwed everybody, right? Everybody. And it's time to get rid of them. We need a better system, and we need it. We need things put back in place that they've taken away. And God, we need that card gone as well, so that those people on the card can be ordinary Australians all over again, and they can get access to help when they need it without judgment and having to go through the 3rd degree and what colour your knickers are all the time. Do you know what I mean? That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to let it be out there. Do you know what I mean? Now, the difference between this government and the previous Labor government in regards to disaster relief, all right, and for card holders that don't have access to that money in cash in their banks, it goes onto the indue cashless debit card. They don't, well, yeah, they do want to be able to buy food, but they need to be able to buy a bloody fridge to put it in first. And it's not fair to make it so they can only spend it at Harvey Norman buying a brand new one for 10 times the cost of what they could buy one off of Marketplace. If you get my drift. Or, okay, say you get one off of Marketplace for 50 or 100 bucks, right? Out of $1,000 payment. That leaves you money to buy a bed and buy bedding and maybe a lounge, you know what I mean? And maybe even get a second-hand TV to replace. Because I can tell you now, most people on Social Security are not covered by contents insurance. Not because they don't want to be, because they just bloody well cannot afford it. Simple as that. I've met many pensioners who have had to cancel their insurances. They've had to cancel life insurances. And things like that. All the things they had set in place. Lost a job, got sick, got disabled, ended up on a benefit. And what do? You've got to cut your cloth to suit. And they cut away all the things that they've been paying for years, insurances, because, you know, that's just money going, dead money, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. Somebody gets $1,000 disaster payment, why should it all go to bloody people like Harvey Norman for a brand new fridge? Right? People could be able to furnish their whole house for that $1,000 if it was in their bank account, and they can use their own judgment and have the right to make their own decisions about their own money. You know? Yeah, so remember at voting time, who's done what to people on the cashless debit card and to people on Social Security in general. All right? And all those other people out there that have lost everything, my condolences go to you. You know, it's just, I'm talking about people here that are on the bones of their ass already. All right? that have no way of replacing everything. And having their cash locked up on the indue card makes it 10 times worse and more stressful. And it's, oh, but you can still buy groceries. You still got to have a bloody fridge or freezer to put them in. You know what I mean? You still need a plate to eat off of. You still need a bed to sleep in. And a lot of people out there at the moment don't have that right away across this state, going into New South Wales and all the way down to Sydney. I don't know how many people have been impacted. I mean, up here, just in our town alone, I think there's about 325 homes that have gone under. Right? I don't know about Gympie. The whole bloody town went under. Right? That's what, 15,000 families in Brisbane. I know there's lots of cashless debit card holders in Brisbane. Toowoomba went under. I know there's cashless debit card holders in Toowoomba. Right? And then you move down the coast. It impacted like 50,000 people in the Lismore area and around that. I mean, they're trying to get 60,000 people to evacuate. People stuck on their roofs, couldn't get out. We won't know till next week how much damage this great big rainstorm's done as it goes down south. And it's hitting Sydney now. And then it'll move down to the south coast. It's a huge event. But I just wanted to raise awareness about people on the cashless debit card that are down that coast and up here and in Gympie and around the place. Okay? And if you find somebody who's on a card and they're trying to swap goods for cash, please have some compassion. You know what I mean? If they're offering to do your shopping for you to get some cash so they can buy something for their kids, please have some compassion. Don't tell them to F off. Don't tell them to move on. I already had a parent last week, just for a simple school thing, I have to go and beg at a service station to try to get some dollars for her kids to take part in a school event. The indignity of this card is disgusting. Anyway, what can I say? To everybody out there, stay safe. You know, no cashless debit card. Minjin says you still need a microwave to heat your food up. Yep. People need to replace things like microwaves, toasters, even a kettle to have a cuppa. You know what I mean? The basics. But, you know, people on the card will be expected to go to the most expensive stores to replace their basics. I can tell you now, I can furnish a whole house and get everything that's needed for under $1,000. But I have the ability to be able to draw cash out the bank, right? My advance, when it comes in, doesn't go on a card 100%. Any lump sum payments that I get don't go on the card at 100%. So I would have the advantage of being able to draw that money out and go and buy what I need. Jump on Marketplace, make arrangements to pick things up, go wherever, you know what I mean? But I'm lucky, I'm fortunate at the moment. But if the LNP get back in with One Nation, we'll all be on it. You know what I mean? No, it'll cripple too many people. It's costing too people. The human cost of this card is too great. It's the bottom line. It's impacting children, it's impacting families, it's impacting their whole families. You know, so yeah, I'll take care of myself. I will. I'm being a good girl. I'm taking my blood pressure tablets. Even my medical appointments got stuffed around this week because I can't get over the bridge. And they sent me a message and redid the appointment for next week. Yeah, so that was a liver scan that I was supposed to have, but that's going to happen next week now. And nothing you can do about it because where I live, I couldn't get out either which way. I've been actually doing some videos on my own page of going out and showing my friends the floods here and exactly my little route of where I'm allowed to go to and go back. But yeah, things will open up in the next couple of days. And then I can get to town. There's a lot of casual workers on the cashless debit card. Yes, Tim. A lot. Because working 30 hours a week, if you've got a family, your family tax payments, your family payments, or your carers payments, and carer allowances, and the trigger payments, you know. So, anyway, guys, I just thought I'd pop in with that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Stay safe, try and stay dry, and listen to all the warnings if you're in a flood area. And yeah, we've just been through it. Well, people here still going to be going through it for months. You know what I mean? Months. So that's all I can say. I'm not really good with lots and lots of words on that thing. I'm so angry because Pauline Hanson, the LNP, Centre Alliance, Malcolm Roberts, always get his name wrong, you know, voted to stop people having access to disaster funds in their bank account where they can use it the most. They voted to lock it up, and they voted to make sure that in the run-up, when you get all the warnings to prepare, people can't prepare. It's despicable. People unalive themselves or die as a result of these sort of things. Put people and families at risk in disasters when they can't get out. All right? And then you leave them abandoned after the event and they can't do anything. So, oh, but they got their 20%. Jeez. As if everybody's a millionaire. Somebody needs to remind these guys that, you know, they're operating on $211,000 a year income with all the perks, right? $273 a night accommodation allowances, $181 a day meal allowances, free drivers, free electricity, free this, free that, all the perks. Oh, but they got their 20%. They can't even imagine what 20% is for somebody on youth allowances, $35 for a week. They can't even imagine it. You know, somebody on Job Seeker, $62 for a week cash allowance. You know, it depends on the person's payments. Do you know what I mean? Youth allowance is also based against parental earnings. So some people on youth allowance get less than the maximum. May not even be getting a cash portion. I come across one who was getting $27 a fortnight cash portion because his money was based on what his parents were earning. You know, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, guys, take care and have a good night. And, yeah, as I said, help each other and stay safe, stay dry, and hopefully this will pass in the next few days and people can start cleaning up. And so, yeah. All right. Night, guys. See ya.